Now back home, the Reserve Bank of India will review its credit policy and decide whether or not to raise interest rates. Speaking to NDTV, Montek, Singh Ahluwalia said taming inflation is a huge worry, which means you can expect rates to be raised.
Yes, inflation is high. I think it was triggered last year by the drought, the expectation that there would be shortages.
Right.
That's quite not a surprise. It happens very often. I think that will change in the current year, and it's already changing. That's why the inflation rate has come down. You know, our expectation is that by the end of this year, the rate of inflation in wholesale prices will be in a more comfortable range of around 6% or so.
One way of controlling inflation is, of course, raising rates, and we know that the RBI's credit policy is round the corner, and we also know that you don't like to second guess what the RBI governor is going to do. But your sense really in terms of the dilemma between growth and inflation, while growth looks to be on track, but there are still worries. If we look at the recent industrial output numbers that came out, you obviously cannot hurt growth at this point. On the other hand, you do need to tame inflation as well. Your thoughts on the way forward between these twin objectives?
Well, you know, that's a balance, and whoever is responsible for making monetary changes has to make a judgment call. You know, my view on this has been that it would have been damaging to start tightening monetary policy before the growth momentum was well established. Now, the fact is, for the last 6 months, the growth momentum is pretty well established, and I think there's no doubt that growth is pretty close to what we would regard a potential growth rate,
right?
Whereas inflation is way above what is comfortable. So probably most people, I'm not aware of anyone who thinks that monetary policy should be loosened at this point.
Definitely
Whether
not,
it's
but tightened further,
how much
right.
is tightened, that's what we should leave to the Reserve Bank, and they've done a good job so far.
But
so
an important point that you made here, that inflation is clearly way above the target, and growth is probably on target. So that clearly means that inflation is a bigger worry for policymakers.
I would say right now the balance of policy should worry about bringing inflation under control.